First contact and deception. The skies over every major city on Earth darkened simultaneously at exactly 13 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday. It wasn't a solar eclipse or freak weather pattern. It was thousands of metallic vessels, each the size of a small city, positioning themselves in perfect geometric formations. Television broadcasts worldwide interrupted their regular programming. Cell phones buzzed with emergency alerts, and social media exploded with images of the massive ships hovering silently above Earth's major population centers. Dr. Ilara Chen had been in the middle of finalizing her quantum entanglement experiment at the Berkeley Quantum Research Facility when the lab's lights flickered and dimmed. She glanced up from her data screens, annoyed at first, then concerned as her colleagues rushed to the windows. "You might want to see this," Ilara, her research partner, Dr. Hassan Nazari, called over his shoulder, voice tight with tension. She joined the crowd at the windows, gazing upward at the enormous vessel that now blocked much of the sky over the San Francisco Bay. The ship's surface gleamed with a dull silver hue, occasionally pulsing with lines of blue energy that webbed across its hull. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, clearly engineered with technology far beyond anything humanity had achieved. "They're everywhere," someone whispered, scrolling through their phone. London, Beijing, Moscow, Sydney, Rio, all reporting the same. Within an hour, every screen on Earth, from smartphones to digital billboards, displayed the same message in every language. "People of Earth, we are the galactic hegemony. Your world is now under our protection. Your governments have 48 hours to send representatives to negotiate terms of integration. Resistance is unnecessary and will result in corrective measures. We bring order, advancement, and peace." The message was signed by Supreme Commander Zirax of the Hegemony Fleet. World leaders scrambled to organize emergency meetings. The United Nations Security Council convened within 3 hours of the ship's arrival, while military forces worldwide were placed on high alert, though no one seriously believed Earth's weapons could challenge the armada that now surrounded the planet. Ilara found herself summoned to Washington, D.C. alongside other leading scientists. The government had assembled a think tank of the best minds in various fields to advise on response strategies. "Their technology is clearly centuries beyond ours," remarked Dr. Willis Park, a renowned astrophysicist. "Look at those energy signatures. They're bending space-time itself to maintain those positions with minimal energy expenditure." "The question isn't about their technology," Ilara countered. "It's about their intentions. Why now? Why Earth? And what exactly does integration mean?" The discussions continued through the night as the 48-hour deadline approached. Eventually, a delegation was formed, a mix of diplomats, scientists, and military advisors from various nations. They would meet with the hegemony representatives at a neutral location, a floating platform constructed by the aliens in international waters of the Pacific Ocean. Ilara wasn't selected for the delegation, but she was assigned to analyze the communications protocols established by the hegemony. Something about their transmission patterns bothered her. There were embedded frequencies that seemed unnecessary for mere communication. While the world watched the televised meeting between humanity's representatives and the tall, elegant humanoid aliens who called themselves the hegemony diplomats, Ilara worked tirelessly in a secured lab, dissecting the alien communications. The peace treaty proposed by the hegemony seemed remarkably generous on the surface. They offered technological advancements, medical breakthroughs, and protection from cosmic threats. In exchange, they requested access to Earth's resources, particularly rare elements like neodymium and water, and permission to establish monitoring outposts around the planet. Most world leaders were inclined to accept the terms. The alternative, potentially facing the wrath of such an advanced civilization, seemed foolish. But 3 days into the negotiations, Ilara made a breakthrough. The hidden frequencies in the hegemony's communications weren't random. They formed a secondary communication channel. With some creative programming and quantum computing assistance, she managed to decode fragments of these hidden messages. What she found chilled her to the bone. Population control measures to be implemented after treaty signing. Resource extraction to begin immediately. Human resistance capabilities minimal. Behavioral modification procedures prepared. Project assimilation timeline. 6 Earth months. Ilara immediately shared her findings with her supervisor, Dr. Marcus Wong, who took the information directly to the President of the United States. The response was immediate but measured. They couldn't risk alerting the hegemony that their true intentions had been discovered. A secret task force was assembled, operating outside official channels. Ilara found herself working alongside an unlikely team. Dr. Hassani Nazari, her research partner, Colonel Sofia Rodriguez, a military strategist, Jin Park, an ethical hacker known for exposing government secrets, and Dr. Kwame Osai, an anthropologist specializing in conflict resolution. "They're not here to help us," Ilara explained to the team during their first meeting in an underground facility in Nevada. "They're here to colonize, to strip our resources and subjugate our population. And they're using our own fear against us. But how do we fight an enemy with that level of technological superiority?" Jin asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Colonel Rodriguez leaned forward. "The same way resistance movements have always fought superior forces, asymmetrically. We find their weakness and exploit it." The team worked relentlessly as the peace negotiations continued on the world stage. While diplomats argued over specific treaty terms, Ilara's team searched for vulnerabilities in the hegemony systems. Jin discovered the first opening. Using quantum encryption techniques developed by Ilara, he managed to access peripheral systems on one of the smaller hegemony vessels. The alien technology was unlike anything they'd seen, not based on traditional computing, but on bioneural networks that function similar to organic brains. Their entire fleet operates as a collective intelligence, Jin explained, showing holographic representations of the data architecture. "It's beautiful, actually, like a massive neural network spread across thousands of ships." "That could be their weakness," Dr. Nazari suggested. "Networked systems are vulnerable to cascade failures if you target the right nodes." Dr. Osei, who had been studying the limited interactions between humans and the aliens, contributed another insight. They seem to operate with a hive-mind mentality. Individual hegemony members struggle to make decisions when isolated from the network. It's as if they're not used to true individuality. As the team dug deeper into the hegemony systems, they discovered something even more disturbing. The aliens had already begun mapping human neural patterns, collecting data through the very devices displaying their messages. They were building a comprehensive model of human thought patterns, emotions, and decision-making processes, presumably to better control Earth's population after the integration. But in this intrusion, Ilara saw an opportunity. If they're studying our brains, they must be connecting to our systems in some way. That connection could work both ways. The team devised a daring plan. While the world leaders stalled the treaty negotiations with increasingly complex demands, Jin and Ilara would attempt to access the Central Command ship's primary systems. Not to attack. They knew that would be futile. But to gather intelligence on the hegemony's true capabilities and intentions. The infiltration succeeded beyond their expectations. Jin's custom-designed quantum algorithms, combined with Ilara's understanding of entanglement, allowed them to establish a connection that the hegemony's security systems interpreted as internal traffic. What they found confirmed their worst fears, but also provided hope. The hegemony had indeed conquered dozens of other worlds, but always following the same pattern: diplomatic engagement, peace treaties, followed by swift subjugation once their monitoring systems were in place. No species had ever seen through their deception early enough to mount effective resistance. More importantly, they discovered a critical vulnerability in the hegemony's bioneural technology. The neural networks required precise synchronization across specific frequencies, frequencies that could potentially be disrupted with Earth's existing technology. As they carefully extracted themselves from the alien systems, Ilara felt a mix of dread and determination. "They think we're primitive and predictable," she told her team. "They've never encountered humans before. They don't understand our capacity for innovation when backed into a corner." Colonel Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Then let's show them exactly what humanity is capable of when threatened." The team began developing a frequency-based weapon that could disrupt the hegemony's neural networks without harming their physical technology. If successful, it could temporarily disable their ships and communications long enough for humanity to negotiate from a position of strength, or at least buy time to prepare better defenses. As the treaty negotiations entered their final stages, with world leaders preparing to sign what they believed was a beneficial agreement, Ilara's team raced against time to complete their countermeasure. The fate of human independence hung in the balance, with only a small group of scientists and specialists aware of the true danger. The supreme commander of the hegemony fleet, Xerax, observed Earth from his command chamber with satisfaction. Another primitive world was about to join their collection, its resources ripe for harvesting, its population ready for subjugation. The humans had responded exactly as predicted by their behavioral models. Or so he thought. What Xerax couldn't know was that for the first time in the hegemony's 1,000-year expansion, they had encountered a species whose unpredictability would soon become their greatest strength. Humanity's counterattack. Dawn broke over San Francisco Bay as Dr. Ilara Chen finalized the frequency disruptor prototype. After 72 sleepless hours, fueled by adrenaline and determination, her team had created a device that could potentially save humanity from silent subjugation. The neural disruptor wasn't much to look at. A modified quantum transmitter connected to an array of hastily assembled amplifiers, but its potential impact was enormous. The hegemony's bioneural networks operate on specific frequency bands, Ilara explained to the assembled team. This device generates counter-frequencies that should disrupt their synchronization, essentially giving their network the equivalent of a migraine. Colonel Rodriguez examined the device skeptically. "And you're certain this won't permanently damage their ships? The last thing we need is to trigger a full-scale invasion if their vessels start dropping from the sky." "The disruption is temporary," Dr. Nazari assured her. "Their systems should recover within minutes. But those minutes could be crucial." While they finalized the prototype, Jin Park had been coordinating with trusted hackers around the world, creating a secure communication network outside the hegemony's monitoring systems. Dr. Osai had been analyzing patterns in the aliens' behavior, looking for psychological weaknesses that could be exploited. The treaty signing ceremony is scheduled for tomorrow, at noon GMT, Colonel Rodriguez reminded them. All major world leaders will be present on the hegemony's main diplomatic vessel. If we're going to act, it needs to be before then. Their planning session was interrupted by an urgent alert from one of Jin's security protocols. "We've got company," he announced, typing rapidly on his keyboard. "Hegemony scanning signatures approaching our location." "They've discovered us," Dr. Osai said, his voice calm despite the implications. "Not necessarily," Ilara countered. "They conduct regular scans of all major research facilities, but we can't risk staying here any longer." The team quickly began packing their essential equipment, preparing to relocate to their backup facility in the Nevada desert. As they worked, an unexpected tremor shook the building, causing lights to flicker and equipment to crash to the floor. "That wasn't a scanning beam," Colonel Rodriguez said grimly, drawing her sidearm. "That was a precision strike." A moment later, the facility's security alarms blared. Jin's screen showed multiple breaches in the building's perimeter. "They've sent ground forces," he reported, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Humanoid drones, at least a dozen." "Evacuate now," Rodriguez ordered. "I'll hold them off as long as possible." "No," Ilara said firmly, making a split-second decision. "Jin, upload all our research to the secure cloud. Everyone else, go with Colonel Rodriguez. I need 5 minutes to finish the prototype." Before anyone could argue, she returned to her workstation, making final adjustments to the disruptor. The distant sound of weapons fire echoed through the facility as Rodriguez and her security team engaged the hegemony drones. 4 minutes later, Ilara finished her work and sealed the prototype in a specialized carrying case. As she headed for the evacuation point, she found her path blocked by 2 hegemony drones, humanoid robots with smooth, featureless faces and weapons where their right arms should be. In that moment of terror, survival instinct took over. Ilara ducked behind a heavy lab table as the drones fired, their energy weapons leaving scorch marks on the wall behind her. Thinking quickly, she grabbed a canister of liquid nitrogen used for cooling superconductors and hurled it toward the drones. The canister exploded on impact, enveloping the machines in a cloud of freezing gas. The extreme cold temporarily disrupted the drone systems long enough for Ilara to sprint past them, clutching the prototype to her chest. She reached the evacuation point just as Rodriguez was preparing to come back for her. "The prototype?" the colonel asked as they piled into the waiting vehicle. Ilara patted the case, complete and ready for testing. As their vehicle sped away from the facility, Ilara watched through the rear window as more hegemony vessels descended on the building they had just evacuated. "They know," she said quietly. "They know we're onto them." "Then we need to accelerate our timeline," Rodriguez replied grimly. They regrouped at the backup facility in Nevada, where they were joined by representatives from other resistance cells that had formed worldwide. The hegemony's attack on the Berkeley facility had not been isolated. Similar strikes had targeted quantum research centers in Tokyo, London, and Beijing. "They're eliminating potential threats," Jin explained during their briefing. "Anyone working with quantum technology is being targeted." "Then they don't know exactly what we've developed," Ilara reasoned. "They're casting a wide net." The resistance needed to test the disruptor, but doing so would immediately alert the hegemony to their capability. They needed a controlled environment and, ideally, a captured hegemony drone or vehicle to confirm the device's effectiveness. Fortune favored them the next morning when a resistance cell in Australia reported shooting down a small hegemony scout ship during an attempted raid on a quantum computing facility in Sydney. The ship's pilot, an actual hegemony officer, not a drone, had survived. "Get me on a secure line with the Australian team," Ilara requested. Hours later, she was examining high-resolution scans of the damaged scout ship and its technology. The bioneural components confirmed her theories about the hegemony systems. Even more valuable was the information obtained from the captured pilot. Unlike the diplomatic representatives who had been carefully selected for their mission, this officer, Tehran, an actual hegemony navigator, had not been prepared for direct interaction with humans. Dr. Osei joined a virtual interrogation, observing the aliens' reactions and responses. What emerged was surprising. Not all members of the hegemony supported the conquest of Earth. Some, like Tehran, belonged to a minority faction that advocated for genuine cultural exchange rather than subjugation. "The hegemony wasn't always as it is now," Tehran explained through a translation device. "We began as explorers, seeking knowledge and mutual growth. But over generations, the central authority grew more concerned with expansion and resource acquisition than with discovery." This information provided both tactical and strategic advantages. Not only did Tehran offer detailed information about hegemony ship vulnerabilities, but he also revealed that the hive mind connection, the neural network linking all hegemony vessels and personnel, was not as complete as the Supreme Commander wanted humans to believe. "There is diversity of thought within our collective," Tehran explained, "but dissent is suppressed through neural conditioning. Would disrupting the neural network harm individuals like you?" Ilara asked, concerned about the ethical implications of their planned counterattack. "Temporarily, yes," Tehran admitted, "but many would secretly welcome it. To be free of the collective influence, even briefly, might allow more of my kind to question our leaders' intentions." With Tehran's assistance, Ilara's team refined the disruptor design, making it more effective against hegemony systems while minimizing harm to individual aliens. They also developed a plan to deploy multiple disruptors simultaneously around the globe, targeting the main hegemony vessels in each region. The morning of the treaty signing arrived with a sense of grim determination among the resistance forces. World leaders were already gathering on the hegemony's diplomatic vessel, unaware of the true danger they faced. News broadcasts showed smiling politicians and hegemony representatives exchanging pleasantries, preparing to sign a document that would secretly enslave humanity. At precisely 11:30 Greenwich Mean Time, 30 minutes before the scheduled signing, disruptors activated simultaneously in 27 locations worldwide. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the globe, hegemony ships suddenly lost their perfect positioning, drifting erratically. Communication screens flickered and died. The diplomatic vessel where world leaders had gathered experienced gravity fluctuations, causing confusion and panic. On the command ship, Supreme Commander Zirax experienced something he had never known before: silence. The constant background hum of the collective consciousness was gone, leaving him alone with his thoughts for the first time in his long life. Around him, other hegemony officers experienced similar disorientation, some collapsing in distress, while others seemed almost relieved. Hilara monitored the effects from the Nevada facility, watching satellite feeds showing hegemony ships worldwide experiencing the same disruption. "It's working," she breathed. "Their neural network is destabilizing." The resistance had prepared for this moment. As the hegemony forces reeled from the disruption, human representatives on the diplomatic vessel revealed the truth about the aliens' intentions, presenting the evidence Ilara's team had gathered. World leaders, now understanding the deception they'd nearly fallen victim to, demanded immediate renegotiation. The disruption lasted exactly 12 minutes, longer than expected, before the hegemony ships began to recover. But in those 12 minutes, everything had changed. The treaty signing was canceled. Hegemony forces found themselves facing a united human resistance that understood their technology and had proven capable of disrupting it. More surprisingly, the disruption had unexpected consequences within the hegemony itself. Without the constant neural conditioning, many hegemony officers and diplomats began questioning their orders. Reports filtered in from around the world of hegemony representatives requesting asylum, offering information in exchange for protection from their own command structure. Supreme Commander Zirax faced a situation unprecedented in hegemony history. A species that had not only resisted their standard conquest protocol, but had actually counterattacked effectively. More concerning was the growing dissent within his own ranks, with increasing numbers of officers supporting communication with Tehran's faction. 3 days after the failed treaty signing, a different kind of meeting took place. Ilara, along with representatives from various nations and resistance cells, met with Zirax and a delegation of hegemony officers in a neutral location in international waters. "Your species has surprised us," Zirax admitted, his voice lacking the confidence it once projected. "No other civilization has penetrated our deception so quickly or responded so effectively." "Perhaps that's because you underestimated us," Ilara suggested. "You saw our divisions and conflicts as weakness, not understanding that diversity of thought and independence are actually our strengths." The negotiations that followed were genuine this time. The hegemony would withdraw the majority of their forces from Earth's orbit, maintaining only a small diplomatic presence. In exchange, humanity would share their unique approach to quantum entanglement, technology that the hegemony, for all their advancements, had not fully developed. More significantly, Earth would become a sanctuary for hegemony dissidents like Tehran who sought freedom from the collective's control. This arrangement benefited both species. Humans gained access to advanced technology and protection from other cosmic threats, while reform-minded members of the hegemony gained allies in their effort to transform their civilization from within. In the months that followed, Ilara worked closely with Tehran and other hegemony scientists, developing new technologies that combined the best aspects of both civilizations. The disruptor that had saved humanity became the foundation for a new form of communication technology, one that allowed for connection without control, sharing without subjugation. 1 year after the hegemony's arrival, Ilara stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth Hegemony Science Center, watching as human and alien scientists collaborated on projects that would have seemed impossible months earlier. "They came to conquer us," she remarked to Turan, who had become both colleague and friend. "Instead, they found partners. And we came seeking resources," Turan replied, "but found something more valuable. A new way of thinking, a reminder of what we once were and could be again." The hegemony had arrived expecting an easy conquest of a primitive world. Instead, they found humanity, innovative, resilient, and ultimately unwilling to surrender their independence. In challenging the hegemony, humans had not only preserved their freedom, but potentially transformed an entire interstellar civilization. Earth's first contact with alien life hadn't gone as anyone expected. But as Ilara watched the sunset over the horizon, she felt hopeful about humanity's future among the stars, no longer isolated, but engaged with the galaxy on their own terms.